As a content creator, I constantly wane between discipline and failure. I always have a burnout and a creator slumps. When I dig down, try to figure out what's holding me back to have this consistent discipline, I realize it's the idea of delayed gratifications. When I research even more about this idea in academia, I even realized there's so many controversy about this idea. For the people who don't know, delayed gratification is almost like the holy grail in self-improvement's productivity world. It all started with one experiment called marshmallow test. It's basically talk about if a kid can resist not to eat a marshmallow for now and wait for 15 minutes to receive a bigger reward, in future it will be way more successful. It's way overused in blogs and YouTube videos or the variation of that type of experiment. This kind of working hard then you get a bigger reward is such a correct term. How could it have controversy? Because research actually find that if you utilize this idea so much, you will suffer from one thing called shameful happiness. What does it mean? When we try to do delayed gratification or discipline, we are saying no to our desire, not to eat the sweets, not to stay up too late, not to eat that piece of pizza or ice cream. You basically is experience pain. And until one point, you hit a burnout. You start doing it crazily. You drink a lot of alcohol. You stayed up whole night playing game. You eating so much sweets that you cannot ever imagine. And in the beginning, you feel really shameful to have this happiness because you didn't follow the plan or fill up all the check mark on your to-do list. But slowly, your brain will put an equal sign between pleasure and shameful. So what happens is your life is stuck in some place you're not supposed to be. It's pulling by two sides of painful effort and shameful happiness. When you feel too ashamed how much happy you have, just go do something disciplined. If you're tired of painful discipline, just go have some shameful happiness. Sometimes you look someone who don't care about productivity, success, you even feel they have a more happiness than you. So why is it so hard for human to do this delayed gratification? And why we even feel this shameful happiness? The true answer is the people who can do delayed gratification is already dead. Don't worry if you're one person who can do delayed gratification. You're not about to be dead. What I mean by that is if you travel 10,000 years back to see our ancestor Homo sapiens, you give them an option, said, hey, today you can receive one piece of meat, or you can wait for tomorrow to come back to me, receive 2 pieces of meat. What would you choose? The Homo sapiens who choose, I come back tomorrow with a bigger reward, may get eaten by tiger just because he don't have enough nutrition to run faster to win the race. In another term, the reason why it's so hard for you to delay gratification is because your dad don't know how to do it. It's because your grandpa, great-grandpa, great-great-great-grandpa can't do it. Just like you have the same last name like your dad or grandpa or great-grandpas, it's the same thing. And back to the topic, delayed gratification. Why we even need to do delayed gratification? It's because if I today eat the cake, tomorrow I will feel ashamed of my body. So in another form, if I choose happy today, tomorrow I will feel pain. But delayed gratification is promoting if today I resist my desire, tomorrow I will feel great about myself. And this happiness is even bigger. What ultimately about this method is within this period of time, if you just only switch the order of happy and pain's behavior, you will receive way more satisfactions. But is that true in real life? The answer is probably no. Just like when you're in school, you're working really hard first month, they raise your score from 1 to 5. And you work really hard another month, raise to 10. Working hard another month, raise to 15. Then learning will be as addicting as games. Like when you play game, you try really hard, you actually have equal amount of reward. The real life example is this positive reward is not as consistent as we imagine. First week, you're working hard from 1 to 5. Second week, you're working hard from 5 to 2. Then you convince yourself to working hard another month, and your score from 2 dropped to 1. Your body immediately understands, wow, this is BS. I better play some game instead of working hard. And you probably have this experience before, is being a good person, do the right thing, not necessarily have the best result. Then we suddenly realize we have zero problem to do within a period of time, switch the pain and the pleasure so we can receive more pleasure. Just like you playing game, you put effort in and you receive way more pleasure than before. We have no problem doing that. The problem is, how could we receive consistent positive feedback? Just like in marshmallow test, how can we guarantee that double amount of reward? The answer is we cannot. There's nothing as linear as we think of. Even as linear as your 3% raise in your job, after you compare with inflation, you realize your salary is a plateau, it never changes. And I'm gonna use myself as an example, right? Your views, that is the final result, is what I'm chasing for. If I can work 20 more hours to make a video that make my view increase double amount, I would be way more dedicated than right now I am. But the real situation is, when I put a lot of effort into editing, to pick the topic, scripting, I receive 100 views. But some video that I didn't even thought would be successful can receive 20K. Any rational person can tell. Delayed gratification, in at least my experience, is not working. Your effort and your result don't come out as equally, as linear as you imagine. So if you want to receive a consistent discipline to film videos, it's basically nonsense. You cannot do that. And I'm sure most of the things in the real world don't have this consistent positive feedback because the world is not linear. Even then, there is the linear stuff. It probably turned out to be a fraud. For example, your boss tell you, right now, you can pick up this month's salary for $3,000. But if you give me 2 more months, I give you $9,000. Would you be scared to take the second options? The answer is yes, because you get fraud so many times based on delayed gratifications. But there is people in our world have consistently disciplined. They putting effort in without even any feedback. How would they be able to do it? Back to me, I still consistently putting effort into reading, scripting, and filming video for you guys. It's because first, this makes me feel really valuable, especially when I see people comment on there, talk about how they get so inspired and find knowledge interesting instead as boring as school. It makes me feel so inspired, especially before when I was even smaller YouTuber. I have maybe 100, 200 viewers. There's some people send me thanks note through Instagram. That tags is what make me feel my life is so meaningful and make me genuinely happy. Second is I believe that if I consistently putting out good content, putting out good effort into this, I eventually will be successful. Even then, here and there, I have a burnout, but I still keep up the good work and try to publish video every week. And the more I read about famous people autobiography, the more I realize the parallel between all these successful people. They experience the same thing. First, I feel meaningful and make me feel happy because I have a sense of value. This thing make me feel valuable. And the second part that I mentioned, I believe I eventually will be successful, is my worldview. I think this is how the world is operating. Use a famous person as example, Steve Jobs. If you tell him that in the next 10 years, computer will be or phone will be the next big thing, so you need to working hard, he probably will give up in the halfway because this positive feedback is not consistent whatsoever. The reason why he can consistently discipline to study, sell, and create a company, because he found it meaningful for him. He found fun in these occupations. And he believed that if he consistently put the effort in, eventually people will see the value of what he's making.
Your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it.
Or another example, Oppenheimer. He's very successful and the movie brought people's attention on him. But if you tell him that your final goal is making a nuclear bomb and boom, you're the famous physics and someone will make a movie of you, so you need to working hard learning physics, he will fail in the halfway because of inconsistent positive feedback. But because he's curious, he wants to know, he have the passion of it, he feel meaningful doing this occupation. That's the reason why he can step by step putting effort in without no true feedback. For most people, when they back to college, people ask them, oh, do you want to take a philosophy class? They think it's so useless. Why the heck I need to learn about the question, who I am, where I'm from, what does a life meaningful to me? It just make me head itchy for no reason. But down to the core, you realize the biggest issue that you and the greatest people in the world is because your philosophy of self is not as strong. You can see so many people, their sense of value or their worldview is borrowed. Because everybody says so, so I believe this concept. But when it actually use those concept, worldview, sense of value to guide their behavior, it suddenly loses the magic. It worked for him, but not for me, because I don't really believe in it. I don't think it's worth of my effort because it's philosophy. And of course, this video is not you watch for 10 minutes, soup for soul, and problem solved. Finding a philosophy is way harder than you imagine. Some people may take them lifelong to figure this path out. But I think it's really useful because at least I want to shine the light of what I find more correct. In the end, I want to give you 2 hacks, maybe to help you to discover on the path a little bit more. In the book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, the author described a thought experiment. I think it's really useful. It talk about, imagine you're dead already. You're lying here, you have a funeral, everybody showed up. What did you wish? Who showed up? And what do they say to you? And perhaps you can discover in that direction, what did you value the most? Before you pass away, you should have done to make those people say those words. Second part is, I find lots of people's sense of value is built on their own self-experience. For example, me, I are not the greatest students, but I still interested in learning. I have this curiosity to read book that was considered not important. And I also see so many people are suffer through the traditional learning, traditional knowledge. So when I'm making videos or making contents, I want to dedicate it to focus on one thing is make people find knowledge is so interesting and perhaps change their life and help their life even for a little bit. While doing it, it feels like I'm saving a younger self. And I see this saving a younger self so commonly happen around the world, even for the famous people. And that's the reason why so many people want to be a mentor for the new generation, because use their word to say is, I see myself shadowing in you. And when I help you, it's like saving a younger self. And that makes me feel really meaningful. And I really hope today's video helped you. And my name is Paul. I'll see you next time.